And let's quickly talk about some of the news then that came out this week. Obviously, NFL's moving to a 17-game season. That gives us an extra game this year at home to the Giants, which is quite a nice matchup. I like when I first flirted with the NFL. It's like when I went over to New York a few times. I was kind of leaning towards the Giants fan before got swung back to Miami that way. So yeah, nice little matchup there, and I look forward to that. Simon, I'll come your way. You've watched many a season of Miami Dolphins football. I mean, do you think this is the right move? Do you think, this is all about the money? It is all about the money before you break it down. But do you think this is going to be good for the fans as well to watch?
Yeah, because they like to watch football, don't they? I mean, you're always going to get the fan base complaining who has that 17th game away from home. And I'm sure they'll alternate every year, won't they? But fortunately for the Dolphins, we've got that 17th game at home for the first time. Interestingly, if the Dolphins were coming to London, then having an extra home game kind of offsets that game they're going to forfeit. Well, not forfeit, but forego at Hard Rock Stadium. So it's interesting that is that a reason why they've been given an extra home game potentially? And of course, am I right in saying they're going to cut down the pre-season so that, so in terms of total number of games, then it's not going to really make a massive impact from a fan perspective. But interestingly, I was looking at that fixture list for the 17th game. The other team that were supposed to have a home game last year in London were the Atlanta Falcons, but they've not got a home game as their 17th game. They're away of all teams, the Jaguars. So it doesn't necessarily ring true that because you get an extra 17th home game this season, it means you're going to be travelling to London. So either it will for the Dolphins or it won't for the Falcons, depending on what happens this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to break it down as AFC host this year, then NFC and so on, alternating like that. So, yeah, maybe that does become a thing, and we kind of move around that way. Lee, any thoughts from you, mate? I mean, I've seen a few players tweet that it's a bit of a shambles and stuff like that. I think Alvin Kamara, one of them, objecting to it. Any kind of sympathy there?
Not really. And I understand that it puts the players at risk, but so does playing in week 16 and week 2 and every other week of the NFL season. I think at the end of the day, none of them will be, no one in the NFL will be complaining when they're signing new contracts and the money takes that big bump in 2 years' time. I think it's very purposeful that it's 17 games because I think the NFL want it to be almost a bit of a shambles because then it's really easy to sell 18 and we even it back up. I think that's where it will settle in. For a long period of time is at 18. But I think the way to sell it is to make 17 super awkward. And once the money kicks in, well, we can't take the money away because everyone wants the money. So the only way to go is to 18. But that's just that's based on nothing but my pure speculation. It's just, I don't know. It just seems like, we're losing 2 preseason games, but we're adding 1 regular season game. Well, it's going to be easy to say in a couple of years' time that we've got the same amount of games as those 2 preseasons and our regular season games.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you're completely right there. I think a lot of people kind of saying that, aren't they? So, yeah, fingers crossed that happens. That'd be quite fun. But seems like the moment for Jeff Fisher to make a coaching return, so he can't finish 8-8 unless he draws a game. Go on, Kadeem, I'll hand over to you. Any thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm not too worried about, 17th regular season game is what it is. For me, it's that loss of the 4th preseason game. And I kind of come at it from a case of there's so many players, especially undrafted free agents or, 7th round, 6th round picks. That 4th preseason game is their only chance to get some, basically a full game on tape and to hopefully try and get into a practice squad or, make a team. And I think you take that away from them, it's, Alvin Kamara being on the 17th game, you're guaranteed a spot until you retire, basically. But you look at the Dolphins, someone like Kirk Merritt, who didn't have a preseason last season because of the because of COVID, a full preseason game for him is genuinely life-changing. And the Miami over the last 3 years, have done a really good job of bringing in a bunch of, guys off the street and then panning out. So from a Miami point of view, I'm annoyed because that full preseason game is where we could be getting our next, Nick Needham or something like that. And to take it away from them, it'll be so interesting to see how teams play out, because normally it was like preseason week 3 was when the starters play like a half, and then after that you don't see them again. I'm more annoyed and frustrated at the guys who are basically going to lose out on an NFL career, so we can get, you know, a week 17 or week 18 for guys who, okay, the money's going to be nice for them, but you know, they'll be happy when their money comes in, but their job safety has been guaranteed for the last, you know, 5-10 years.
It feels like, you know, the money really only affects the top end of the roster anyway. So it certainly doesn't help, like you say, especially the undrafted guys. I wonder if we start to see, probably not, you know, this year because of COVID restrictions, but see a lot more inter-team pre-seasons where you're getting a lot more kind of live scrimmage in between a lot of that sort of bottom end of the roster, where at least the coaches are able to see it, even if it's not kind of like under the lights and on TV. Where they try and kind of compensate for it slightly, because those guys need a chance. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Would Kadeem, you mentioned about removing that 4th preseason game. Would the 3rd preseason game therefore be that game by default that the players on the bubble of the roster would be looking to establish themselves? Do you think, or do you think that would still be an opportunity for them?
I would assume so, yeah, because I think it would just kind of just go back a week. So you will see, you know, the starters play maybe one series in week 1, and then really ramp it up in week 2 for preseason and play, you know, a quarter or half. And then the 3rd preseason game, you guys get a week off because we don't want no injuries, and, you know, you can relax. But I think what you probably will see is, you know, likely to a lot of inter-scrimmage games and stuff like that, where the bubble guys get a lot of game time. And I'm sure at some point they're going to have to either increase the roster size or increase the practice squad size, because again, you're going to give us an extra game week and let, you know, one less preseason game. We're going to need to carry more guys because guys are going to be beat up. So yeah, I think it will, especially if they get to 18 games, it can probably be another bye week, bigger practice squad and a bigger roster size, I guess.
It also feels like this is a real opportunity for a developmental league to come, you know, to kind of gain some traction, like the XFL when it starts back up. Do you know what I mean? It feels like there's going to be a lot more of that sort of guys that were cut just before the season started, you know, trying to prove their worth there in live football, maybe even in, you know, playing Canadian football. You know, I know it's slightly different, but let's be honest, you know, don't want my Cameron Wait walking back through the door. So, you know, I just think it's going to help some other leagues. You know, I think the amount of football and the quality that we see, I think possibly goes up.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I guess like with the kind of expanded playoffs and stuff, it's all kind of pointing to bigger, better. Well, maybe not better, bigger, kind of, you know, all over the TV, all over the world sort of thing, which is obviously the NFL's goal. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how it develops. I mean, I'll be excited if it does go to 18 games again. I think that's an interesting one. And like you say, Lee, it's going to just be more money in the back pockets of all of the players in the next few years.